Hey everyone, James Martin here. I'm here to help you filmmakers not only make your movies better, but also to help you succeed in your career. Today is a video I've been wanting to make for months right now because I think it's really important. You might want to be storytellers, you might want to be writers and directors and deal with more of the creative aspect, but I really think it's super important that you also think about the logistics side of things, how to put the project together, how to make all the individual small things all come together and work seamlessly, down to scheduling, financing, discussions, negotiating especially. And that's the big thing that we're going to talk about today, is how to essentially conduct a proper negotiation, specifically when you're trying to gain sponsorship, get other people onto your project, negotiate a deal with a location so you have permission to shoot there at hopefully little to no cost. Maybe you're trying to get other things involved, other brands, objects, food, services, whichever. Try and get that into your project, again at little to no cost, as long as you can make sure that everything works out for everyone. So today I want to go into just a few things you want to really keep in mind to think about how you want to properly approach your negotiations. The key trick with a negotiation is you really want it to work out for everyone else. You can't think about yourself. If it's just a one-way street, then no one's going to want to work with you. And that could potentially even burn a bridge with you and the other person for later down the line. So it's really important that you not necessarily think about what you want, but think about how you can make it benefit someone else. And there's a few tricks that we can think about. And listen, maybe you're not a filmmaker, but maybe you want to get into YouTube or other things in the future, despite what industry you're in, what businesses or entrepreneurial journeys that you run as well. I'm sure this can apply somewhere along the way. Heck, I even use this for negotiating brand deals for my YouTube videos. So this will help you regardless. So the first thing you really want to just clarify is what you are asking for, which sounds a little straightforward, but you'd be surprised how sloppy this part can really get. So you don't just go up to, let's say, a location and you say, yeah, I want to shoot your location for my movie. When you're approaching someone and trying to do a negotiation, often they're the ones that's going to be super nervous and the most judgmental of you and the negotiation. And that's why you want to approach everything right off the bat as clear and as concise as possible. So when you're asking something of someone else, you need to be as specific as possible. So don't just say, hey, can I shoot in your location? You need to say, I would like to shoot in this specific part of your location on this date from this time, and then we will be out by this time. And you need to be very clear as to how you're going to respect the location as well. So you're going to say, we're going to make sure that the place is tidy. And before we leave, we're going to make sure it is spotless as if we were never there. Okay? We are not going to do anything that we haven't first asked for permission to do first. We're going to make sure that we're not going to shoot anything we're not supposed to shoot. We're not going to touch anything that we're not going to touch. Often when I've negotiated stuff for locations, I just say to them, listen, we would like access to this particular area that we want to shoot in, but also we would like access to the washrooms. And then that's it. We're not going into the office. We're not going into other private areas. We want this one or these two specific rooms so that we can shoot or just store stuff for just the temporary time being. And of course, we need access to the washrooms. And the more clear you are upfront about what is the expectation, what is it that you're trying to do, then the smoother things go, because now everyone's on the same page. Everyone knows what the expectations are. It's when people get muddy and confused about what you're asking for and what they're expecting, then it gets really confusing, and that's just going to lead down a rabbit hole of problems. The second thing you need to keep in mind is, what will the other person get in return? Normally, a very traditional sort of tactic that we often use with negotiating deals for projects is what's called copy and paste. So if you're doing a short film, they get a free copy of the movie, and they also get their name in the credits. That's very simple and very straightforward. However, a lot of the times that's not really good enough. You got to think about who you're addressing. So the thing is, if you're working in the film industry, everyone's used to working for copy and credit. And if they don't like that, then they just expect some form of a payment. That's a bare minimal. But when you're negotiating with businesses, a lot of the times that doesn't really work well for them. So you got to think above and beyond what you're trying to offer them. And you really need to think about not just, oh, what's a the very simple stuff that we can offer, really think about how can we go above and beyond? How can we provide so much value to them for this negotiation that it's almost like they can't say no to your deal? First, I would suggest to you that you really need to add up the value of everything. You want to borrow a location. Be honest, how much is renting that location going to be for a day? So just approximate, okay, maybe it's going to be a few $100s. That's a safe place to see. Now you want to make sure that you offer hundreds of dollars of value. See where I'm going? Maybe you want a brand to get involved in your deal. Like you want to feature another brand and other stuff to be in your shoot. Well, you want to make sure like, okay, well, how much would this cost normally? Maybe the stuff that you want to use in your shoot is going to be no more than $100. Okay, then make sure that they get over $100 worth of value back, right? Make sure that they're benefiting more than what you're getting. And that way you have a better chance of the negotiation working out and they want to work with you. Now, when it comes to offering value back, my big suggestion is don't go overboard. Like you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars. You don't have to go really out of your way to provide maximum value back. Keep it simple, but just be honest. So for instance, what I usually like to do is one, shout outs. Like shout outs on social media. If you're doing products, like if you're doing t-shirt merchandise, then have some awareness on those. Tags on social media also works perfectly. And keep in mind, these are free stuff. This isn't going to cost you much of anything. If you're already doing merchandise and you're already adding in names or the title of your project, then just add the logo. It's not going to cost you anything more, right? Or if you can't do logos, just add the name. And make sure just you're upfront about it. So if you're negotiating with a business, add their website. It's that simple. If you're offering a credit, which again is not an additional cost, then say to them, we're going to include your name and your website and your logo, or just your name and your website. Something else that you could do if you really want to add more value, if you're experienced with photos or videos, maybe offer a service back to them, like some videos, some blogs, or some photography. So what do I mean by this? Well, what if while you're at the location, if you're trying to negotiate a location, what if you took some additional photos of the place and then offered those photos back? What if you did an additional commercial for that business or that location? If you've been on this channel for a while, you may have recalled when I did a video where I traveled to Orangeville, Ontario, and I went to a coffee shop. Well, part of the negotiation for that coffee shop was just I wanted to get permission to host my interview at the coffee shop. But what I also did was I added an option where I said to them, listen, what if we featured your products, like your food items, any particular items that you want exposure in the video, okay? And in return, okay, I'll do a very specific commercial shout out in the video. So I actually did a 30-second sort of commercial advertising the cafe. I said, you'll get a copy of the video and a copy of that 30-second commercial, which honestly didn't take me that long to put together. And I just got a few shots while I was at the cafe and then did a voiceover later on. But I also said to them, like, listen, if you're willing to sponsor our lunch, then we'll make sure we really give a lot of exposure to the food itself and really make sure that we're highlighting those specific food items on the menu. And what happened? Well, they sponsored our lunch and we did the videos back for them. It didn't cost me a huge amount of time. It actually didn't cost me much time at all. I was able to quickly put this together, make it worthwhile, and they got 2 videos in return for free. The only thing that I asked for from them was A, permission to shoot, B, for any video and audio to be used in my YouTube video, which is also important. You want to make sure that you're clear that all video, audio, and pictures at the location or at whichever what's going to be heard or seen is going to be used in your project. You want to make sure that's clear as well. But they also gave us a free lunch. So it worked out either way. Again, I can't emphasize enough. You really want to make sure it's as worthwhile to them as possible. Okay? I've went out to offer whole video services worth hundreds of dollars. I've offered that for free just so I can negotiate other deals. I mean, just to give you an idea of some places I've been able to negotiate just by making sure that the value is equal. I've negotiated locations, hotel rooms, food, brands, and a whole bunch of different stuff. I couldn't have had any of that if I didn't make sure that I was providing more value to them that I was getting in return. The third thing you want to keep in mind is, how can this project help the other person? And I want you to be as realistic as possible. Are they going to get good exposure? Good exposure will help other people. You know, so I shot a movie in Barrie, Ontario, and that movie was becoming one of them. We pretty much shot a bulk of it in Barrie, but we also want to do a lot of advertisement, a lot of screenings in Toronto. Well, we also decided as part of our marketing that we also wanted to do a lot of advertising and premieres and stuff like that in the Barrie area, so that the businesses that were involved, that were from Barrie and let us shoot their locations in Barrie, we're also going to get a lot of exposure in the Barrie area. See, it wasn't going to benefit them if we marketed it in Toronto, but it was going to benefit their local area. So just make sure you're very realistic. Maybe even free content was going to help. So I mentioned about the number of times I've done brand deals for my YouTube videos. Okay, well, the benefit to others is that I'm giving them a video that they didn't shoot, they didn't edit, I worked on it, but they get it for free. Normally it's stuff that I would charge, but I would do that just for the sake of a negotiation. That way they're getting something and then I'm getting something in return. The next thing you want to do is you want to be as nice and as supportive as possible. And again, just be realistic. How can you help each other? Like, honestly, be realistic. Like, if you're trying to shoot at a particular location that's in your neighborhood, then even after the shoot, either before the shoot or even after the shoot is done, why don't you go and visit the location once in a while? Especially if it's a food place, why don't you go and have breakfast, lunch, or dinner there? You know, just show that, like, hey, we're not just showing up, taking advantage and leaving. Show some additional support, because remember, they could also be spreading a good word about you, but also that could be a good relationship where you both can work together and collaborate again on another future project. There are tons of people that I'm connected with right now, and we do a lot of recurring collaborations and projects together. So you really want to make sure those relationships are still good and you're just supporting each other, even on social media. It doesn't cost much to like a video or share a post that they did, right? Always show ways on how you can support each other. Next, you want to make sure that you follow through on your commitment and make sure that the other person also kept up their end of the bargain, which is why I am really going to emphasize, have things written down. Have your negotiations written down. Essentially, what you're doing is you want to make sure that our understanding, our meaning, yours and the people that you're negotiating with, make sure that everyone has a very clear understanding of what the expectations are. What you're offering, what they're offering, what you're asking for, how we're going to do this, what's the timeline, when are we going to get certain things done, when is the shoot, when is other things happening. Make sure this is as clear as possible. And only when both you and the other person have a very clear idea of what the expectations are, then you want to make sure you sign off on it and the other people sign off on it as well. And that becomes your go-to. Because what you don't want to happen is, let's say you forgot something. You really don't want to do that. You want to make sure you're really keeping up your end of the bargain. These written documents can also help save you from a heated argument. So maybe they said, hey, James, you said you were going to do X, Y, and Z. And you look at your contract and you say, well, no, we discussed this. This was what we said we were going to do. If the other person doesn't keep up their end of the bargain and they say, oh, that's not what you said or that's not what we expected, then at least you have your contract that you can go back to and say, listen, you said this, and you said this, and you signed off on it, which meant that you understood. And the whole point of this, it's not necessarily a legal act. All right, so let's say someone fell through on something. This is not meant for you to necessarily just immediately call the cops or get a lawyer involved or anything. That's not the whole purpose. That's called burning a bridge, which means you're breaking a relationship. You could still fix this relationship. Maybe there was a miscommunication and a misunderstanding. That happened, you know? I was supposed to shoot at this one location. We were expected to go in by 7 o'clock in the morning. The owners didn't show up till 7:45, which, by the way, 45 minutes, that's a lot of time. Unfortunately, that 45 minutes did hold us back. Just make sure that you have it in writing so that everyone is clear on what the expectations are. And if someone falls through, then just try and be understanding and see how we can get back on track and make sure that we're all benefiting by the end of the day. Last but not least, this is really, really important. Do not be afraid or upset if someone says no. If you're trying to negotiate with someone and they just turn you down, First off, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're saying no to you, period. A lot of times it means no, not right now. Okay? I've had sponsors and people that I tried to negotiate with who said no at one point, and I went back to them years later and they said yes. So it happens. Also, don't take it personally. What I usually try and do is if someone says no, just ask for some feedback. Just listen, okay, so why does this not interest you? Do you mind just letting me know, like, is there anything that you don't like or you wish that we could have changed to make this better? Or maybe they're saying no, and the question that you want to ask them is, okay, is there anything that we could do to perhaps make this more beneficial? It's just open that conversation and have that dialogue. Maybe you might be opening up questions and things that you didn't even think about. So it doesn't hurt, but at the end of the day, if they say no, don't take it the wrong way. Just say, okay, well, thank you for your time, and then move on. All right, so I hope this helped you out. If it did, please smash that like button, and please share this to other people who could really help from this negotiation tactic. Really, it just comes down to open communication and really having clear expectations as to what everyone's job and task is going to be. And that way the process just becomes really, really, really smooth. Okay, and always think about how you can help the other person in return, because that's really going to help you down the line. All right. If you're new here, please make sure to subscribe, because I got new videos every single week. Fun stuff happening all the time. So good luck with your projects. Have fun, and I will see you next time.